Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. I'm your host, Mark Farinella. I am the former Patriots beat writer and many other jobs at a local newspaper down here in southeastern Massachusetts, and I did it for 41 years, and if you don't know who I am, then why are you even watching, okay? By the way, that book I was looking at, of course, is the Bible of podcasting, Podcasting for Dummies, which is something I had to get when I first started doing this back in October of last year. And it is full of great information about how to put yourself out there in the public eye with no experience whatsoever doing it. It is the latter stages of Friday, August 7th, 2020, and this is the 11th episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. And we'll have a few special tidbits of news for you tonight, and what I hope will be a shorter version than what we've been doing lately. Let me just get the cord out of the way here. Highly technical outfit that I have here. All right. First thing on the docket tonight is very good news to report in regard to my aching left knee, which many of you have been following the tale of it, whether you want to or not, I suppose. But yes, I injured my left knee many years ago, and finally, surgery is scheduled for Tuesday, the 11th of it's next week. To repair as much of the damage as it can be repaired at my advanced age. Quick story on it. I did hurt it in my senior year in high school playing baseball, and I wasn't very good at baseball. And then I really injured it badly playing intramural football in college at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And I went to the hospital with my knee about 10 times its size. And the doctors at the time gave me two choices. They said you can either have surgery and have your knee and your whole leg in a thigh to ankle cast for about 6 months, which was not really a good idea for me at that stage of my, academic performance at Northwestern, which was not very good at the start. But that was the choice, so I chose the other choice, of course, was to endure a life of pain and agony and other sorts of issues with my knee, as it would heal, but never correctly, and I would, at some point, probably have to have this done. And, hey, I got about 45 years out of it, so I can't complain much, I guess. I did flare up from time to time, and I did have times in my life when I did want to do something with it, but never really got around to it. But with the current medical insurance that I have and all that, I figured it was a good idea to get this done now. And I am doing it. Again, I haven't mentioned the name of my surgeon yet because I haven't asked for permission to use it. Let me just say that this surgeon is quite accomplished and is wasting his or her, I won't say right yet, formidable talents dealing with my knee. But once I get a chance, I will explain more fully as to who's doing it, and it will be done soon. I don't know exactly how I re-hurt it. I've had issues with it for several years, but then in my 30s I was working out a lot. You'd never know it to look at me now, but I strengthened the muscles around my knee, and I didn't have a lot of problems until my 30s and early 40s, and then it started to get a little tougher for me to try to do the kind of exercise I wanted to. As a result, my weight blew up considerably, and that was an issue that ended up being a big problem. So in April of this year, I was mowing early in the just about the first time, I think. And you know how the first time you go out in your yard, it's not exactly, it looks beautiful because the grass is new and it's green, but the ground is uneven because you've got the wintertime frost heaves. And as a result, I didn't realize in a few places where I'd be mowing that there would be little steps that I wouldn't know were there. And I took one step badly, and I remember feeling it in my left knee. It was a little searing hint of pain there for a couple seconds, but I didn't think anything much of it. Usually that happens all the time, and it goes away. This time it didn't go away. And because of the coronavirus pandemic, of which I believe we are in at the end of the 22nd week, I was scared to go to any kind of medical facility. I mean, let's face it, this was not a this was a time where you were thinking that if there was any place you were going to catch the coronavirus, it was probably going to be at a hospital because other people were there with it, especially when the cases were really going through the roof. So I stayed away, and I just figured, well, it'll go away. I'll try my best. I'll ice it down. I'll try to stay off it. Couldn't do it. I had to call the people to mow my lawn because that was an issue. And as a result, finally, early June, I just said I can't take it anymore. It was really, I was walking with a cane. It was very difficult to get around. It was waking me up every night, several times during the night because of just it would lock and pop. So I called the folks at Brigham and Women's, and they sent me to West Bridgewater to get an MRI. And the MRI showed a considerable amount of damage to the meniscus, both sides of it, all over my left knee. Some of that was the damage of recent. Some of it was probably the damage of 1972. And the rest of it might have been just all those other years of grinding on it. And I have some few tears in the tendons, nothing bad in regard to that. But it's going to be it's not going to be a full reconstruction. It's going to be it's not going to be a knee replacement. It's just going to be an arthroscopic procedure on Tuesday, and hopefully I will be around and walking again in about a week after that. I'll go home the same day. It's day surgery, and in fact, they're even going to do it in Foxborough. I don't have to go to another hospital to have it done. So I had injections originally when the doctor first saw me. I was given injections to a steroid and painkiller, and boy, I'll tell you, after about 3 days, I really felt almost normal again. No lateral movement, but I really felt that I could do just about everything. So I went out and mowed one time after I got back from vacation because the grass needed to be mowed, and it was about the only time this summer. I mean, I think I've only had the lawn mowed 3 times in a period of time. I normally would have had to do it 7 or 8 times. And so I think I may have pushed it too far, and then in the last week it's been another degenerative problem, and it has hurt like hell. So I'm glad I told my physical therapist that I was actually going to beg for the surgery to be performed. I didn't have to beg. The surgeon recommended it right off the bat. So that will take place on Tuesday, and I couldn't be happier, to be honest. Now, part of this whole process will result in a COVID-19 test. I have to be tested for the coronavirus on tomorrow, Saturday. As you watch this, probably it will have already happened. I'm a little scared, I gotta admit. I have no reason to believe that I've been exposed to the coronavirus. I believe that I have managed to protect myself. I occasionally have a few sniffles. I haven't had any sore throat. I have little raspiness from time to time, but that's just part of being me, I think. The sniffles are seasonal allergies, at least I want to believe that. I have worn my mask religiously. I have been in a few crowds, but never had the mask off. It was mostly supermarkets, things like that. I haven't been in any kind of social gatherings. Hardly have eaten out at all. I think I've been in one restaurant, and and the person who were dining were completely alone in the entire restaurant area. And there was one time where we had the Mansfield High School Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame nominations, and a group of us were there, and I think we all took our masks off. But I would like to think that nobody in there was going to be spreading the disease around. In the period of time since that has happened, nothing new has happened to me. So I would like to think I got away with this, but we'll see. I mean, they will be sticking the swab down my nose, and there's nothing much I can do about that. So we'll see. It's still a little scary to know that I finally have to go through with it. But then again, too, if it comes out the way I expect it to, it will be a relief, not a license to get, crazy about anything, and not to get lax or think that I'm over the entire pandemic, because you start taking your mask off, you get in the crowds, you do this, that, and the other, and you can be exposed tomorrow. And I'm sure that's part of the problem that we're facing as a nation right now, because everything has come back. Even at a time when it looked like we were starting to really get a hold of the curve, it has definitely come back with a vengeance in many states, and now it's starting to creep back up here, which is a little frightening. Now, problem with all this is that I have to go to Newton Wellesley Hospital, which is about, under perfect conditions, a half-hour drive from here. Probably won't be perfect conditions, even if it is a Saturday, so I'm going to have to leave early because it's a drive-in situation. I made the arrangements today. It's a specific time. I've told them what car I'll be driving and all that, and then they will take the swab and stick it up my nose as I'm sitting in my car. I hope they stick it up the nostril, this nostril here, because I have a deviated septum. Long story short, when I was 6 years old and on the school bus coming back from Dominican Academy in Plainville, there was a bully who was had gotten himself in a little trouble in the bus. So those of us who he would bully thought we had the license to get at him at that point, because he couldn't do anything about it or else get thrown off the bus. So I start ragging on him. I was pretty good, even as a 6-year-old. I could insult with the best of them. So the guy gets off the bus at the same stop as me, so I kind of hot-foot it down to my yard. So I get down to my yard, down the street, and he's following me, and I'm standing like one step into my yard, and I look at him, I say, you can't touch me. I'm on my property. Boom! Broken nose, deviated septum, 6 years old, and again, that's something that has bothered me my entire life. You breathe more out of one side of your nose than the other. And I tend to bleed more because of that. But yeah, well, I got what I deserved, I suppose. But that kid didn't make it past first grade. No, he was in second grade at the time. That's right. And he didn't make it past that at Dominican Academy. I think he got heaved out of school at some point for some other reason. But I'm going to Newton Wellesley Hospital, and I think about this. I have to go all the way up there and sit in my car and hopefully get there on time so I don't have to wait a lot, because they're supposed to take me at the time that I go in. And yet, in this country right now, professional athletes can get tested several times a day. Donald J. Trump and many members of his administration and his family, mostly the family, get tested several times a day, and they know their results, and they're all happy, and yet millions of Americans cannot get tested quickly or cannot get tested at all. I mean, look, I'm in one of the most populous states of the nation, and especially we're blue around here, like the shirt. And maybe that's why we don't get any money to develop testing sites. But the fact is, there just aren't a lot of testing sites. As I was talking to the people at Brigham and Women's in Foxborough, they were saying, we want to get the testing site here, but we can't do it yet. So there is an inequity. And so every time you hear the president say that there are tests for everybody, there aren't. They may be, but you have to go way out of your way to get it done. And then in some cases, I'm reading that people aren't finding out their results for 8 or 9 days until after the test was administered. Well, hell, you can pick up the virus in that period of time, and so you find out. They call you and they say, hey, you're well, and you're lying on your back, can't breathe. It is one of the glorious incongruities of living in America in 2020. And hopefully we will take care of some of that in November. 160,000 Americans have died of this virus. When I used to do my audio podcasts, and I will resume them again shortly, I would do little fake commercials in the middle of them. And then when I stopped doing the commercials, I was doing what I called, public service announcements, admonishing everybody to wear masks and such like that. And as a result, I had every now and then from when I did the commercials, you could tell the count. It went from 40,000 to 50,000 to 70,000 to 80,000. And now here we are, 160,000 Americans have died as a result of the coronavirus. The response to this disease in this country has been abysmal. No questions about it. And I pray to God, as some of you may know, I did a podcast with a very good friend of mine. His name is Paul Souza. He is a former Mansfield High School athlete, a great athlete, 1,000-point scorer in basketball, a world-class high jumper even as a high school athlete. He went on to Penn State, became almost Olympic quality at that point. He was a longtime successful coach of the Wheaton College track teams over in Norton when he came back after college. And here's a guy who's young. He's about, I would say, about 8 or 9 years younger than I am, I think. And he's healthy. He's been healthy his whole life. He gets so much exercise because he is the lead singer for several rock and roll bands. He's fronted a lot of bands over the years, and he's still doing it. He lives in Indianapolis now, and I found out that he had contracted the coronavirus. Well, fortunately, he let everyone know on Facebook that he was okay, so I shot him a message and I said, would you like to be on the podcast? And he joined me from Indianapolis via Skype, and we talked about what it was like to go through it, and it was, as you might expect, even for a healthy man that was lacking a lot of the pre-existing conditions that people like me have to worry about. It was a frightening experience. It really cut down on his ability to breathe. He's worried about his heart, and if there's been any damage going forward from that. So thank God he made it. For every one of him, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people right now that survived to every one death. It's probably better than that. It's probably about 10 to 1, but I guess maybe because we hear more about the deaths now, I think the networks are starting to get the idea that we should also remind people that people survive this, because you don't want to think it's an immediate death sentence. But it still can leave damage, and it is just a frightening experience. And it's unlike anything that we've been challenged by in this country in a long time. So let's hope we start getting a better handle on it. The other fallout from all this is that my friends from Rhode Island that I would like to come visit me, probably can't right now, because here in Massachusetts, Governor Charlie Baker has put the halt on the reopening of the state. He has done it in a 4-level process, and the current level that would have been going up to level 4 or close, or at least to complete level 3, he said, nope, we got to stop because our numbers are coming up again. And part of the reason he believes is because the numbers have come up in Rhode Island, and all of a sudden Rhode Island's a state that if you we border it on like more than half the state is bordered on Massachusetts, but it's like the coronavirus can't go past the wall. We have an invisible wall up now from I guess the Connecticut border to down in the Seekonk River, or wherever the heck Rhode Island stops and Massachusetts begins. So it's impenetrable. The coronavirus can't get through there. But the problem with all that is that people who live in Rhode Island, many of them work in Massachusetts. So many of my friends at the Sun Chronicle lived in Rhode Island, worked for us in Attleboro. And you got to cross the border to get there. Part of our coverage was covering the Pawtucket Red Sox. They're not playing anymore, and that will probably be it for them, too, because they're supposed to move to Worcester anyway, but their last season was wiped out. But they couldn't have been covered there this year. Providence College basketball, my friend Peter Gobus covers them. I don't know what the plan is for that. Actually, Peter, he's a Rhode Island resident. I hope he can come to work. I'm not even sure if they've reopened. I think most of everybody is working virtually or working remotely right now. So, but yeah, that's interesting, because if you are a Rhode Islander, you're supposed to automatically, if you come into Massachusetts, you're supposed to stop and be quarantined for 14 days. Well, who in the hell wants to do that? Especially since so many people on the border come into Massachusetts to shop and then go home. I mean, I think Channel 5 in Boston did a piece from the Market Basket supermarket in South Attleboro, which is right on the line. It's about, you could throw a stone into Rhode Island from where that supermarket is. And a lot of Rhode Islanders from Pawtucket and that area come in and they shop at that supermarket and then they go home. So I guess in a press conference, Charlie Baker said, it's okay if you come in here, if you want to come here and shop, but then go home. Like they're the unclean. Yeah, we got plenty of coronavirus cases in our own state, Charlie. And that's this whole thing is causing all sorts of issues that, as I will mention shortly. And the last issue I want to bring up for today, of course, is I keep bringing up high school sports in Massachusetts. While we are getting closer to when the fall season would be cranking up, I would think that in about normally the football teams, field hockey, all those sports would be out on the practice fields in another 2.5 weeks. But that's not the case this year anyway. Schools aren't supposed to open until the 14th, and many of the schools in our area have chosen to start differently. Some are starting in a completely remote mode where it's all going to be at-home learning on the computer, or there's going to be a mix of it in some of our communities, a hybrid mode, as they're calling it, where on a couple of days a week the kids will be right at their keyboards, and then they'll be in classes, and they'll have a staggered system of getting everybody in. Now, for a while, a lot of people were starting to think that, well, that completely precludes the idea of having any high school sports, because if you're not in the school, how can you be out there on the practice field? The MIAA, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, did issue a statement on that today that says that there are no rules at this time that preclude having teams practice, even though they might not be in the actual school building for their learning. And there's a precedent for that. I mean, these seasons always start before the actual school year start. So actually, basically, they're just saying that for the time being. But they haven't gotten the guidance yet from the state. They haven't heard from Charlie Baker yet, and the other the panels that are advising him as to whether they will recommend high school sports. Now, I was feeling kind of good about it for a while because so many states around us have decided to start seasons, maybe a little bit late, but they are cranking up everything, and it looks like it was going to be a go. But now I'm wondering if it's going to happen. Now, here's a case where in Pennsylvania, the governor of that state came out and said he did not want to see high school sports played in the fall this year. Whereas the Pennsylvania version of the MIAA, their state association, was, I guess, pretty pissed about that statement, because it wasn't as if the governor was banning it, but it was sort of like it would make them look bad if they were trying to start it up. So they cranked out a press release and said that they really disagree with that opinion being put forth, and they want to have further discussions with it with the governor and all that to see if they can reach some sort of a compromise. Presumably, because Pennsylvania is one of those states that said they were going to start on time originally. Presumably, a good compromise would be to start late, like they intend to do in many other states in the Northeast. So again, we all don't know what's going to happen, and it's getting to the point where we're running out of time to make these decisions. So I hope they will make it soon, because again, I do play-by-play for King Philip football. I'd like to be able to do that. That's the selfish reason. The unselfish reason is that I saw how these people suffered, these kids suffered during the spring season to lose a season of sports. I think everybody understands it shouldn't be at the risk of their health, but it's going to be, if they can find a way to make things safer, I think it would be pretty bad if they lose another season. If it really gets to that point, though, where it is unsafe out there, they're just going to have to lose the season. And let's hope we can start everything up on January 1st. Maybe move the fall sports to the spring, but that really penalizes the spring athletes too. So a lot of things that have to be dealt with. So, and that brings us to the close of this episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. I have to come up with a better way of saying After Dark. Yeah, not bad. Anyway, if you want to see all of my After Dark episodes, and you want links to my audio podcasts, which are really the Cadillac of this franchise, please go to my website, which, as you'll see across the bottom of the screen, is www.theownersbox2020.com. Now, I've been told I should drop the www, but for some reason, sometimes when you type it in, if you just typed in theownersbox2020.com, you might get an error message on your screen. I'm not sure why. I'll have to look it up. You add the 3 W's, you're all set. World Wide Web rules. Okay? And if you have thoughts about what I'm saying, what I'm doing, whether I should be doing this, get a haircut, stop wearing the Jen Royal hat, whatever, please send me an email at theownersbox2020@gmail.com. And I've been getting emails, and I really appreciate them, because a lot of them have been helpful and give me a little bit more insight as to what's happening on a few issues, and I'm very thankful to have it. So you can send me snail mail as well. My poor box, my brand new box at the Mansfield Post Office is getting cobwebs in it. I need mail. So please send me snail mail if you can. The address is The Owner's Box, Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts, 02048. I'm not so sure when the next episode will be. I'd like it to be soon. I just don't know what kind of condition I'm going to be in after they cut my knee open on Tuesday. I may be a little hobbled. I may not be comfortable in a seat, at least for a week anyway. They say that arthroscopic surgery is something you get over really quick. My surgeon did say that it might take a little longer for an old guy like me to get up and around, but hopefully with the right painkillers and all that, I should be able to do this again. So in the meantime, I would ask you all to please stay safe, wear your masks. Please do wear your masks. This is the main reason why we might be getting an edge on the coronavirus, is if we just don't transmit it to everyone else. And stay safe, be good. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Thanks a lot for joining me tonight, and good night, everybody.